out of there. All right. So we are here.
Understands Sarah Williamson can get to Bat Yam, but the police force of the 8th most powerful country in the world can't get there.
Yeah. Well, you know, we are hearing reports that right-wing leader of the religious Zionism party, Bezalel Smotrich, has come out. He tweeted basically a message condemning what has taken place in Bat Yam. But the question is whether or not that is enough if you don't have an active police force on the ground that is properly dealing with this. What do you think is going on here? Why is this the situation?
It's basically started off as something tactical that got totally out of control. Both certain Arab interests that don't want to see a rapprochement between Israeli Arabs and Jewish parties in the parliament, and on the other side, right-wing parties that don't want to see a rapprochement between Israeli Arabs and other parties. They both have a common interest here. Instability will keep their leaders apart. Instability will prevent an agreement. Instability will prevent another government. And instability will lead to another endless election. And that's what it was supposed to be, but it got totally out of hand. Totally and completely out of hand. And what it's going to take to bring it back domestically is for all the various leaders from all the various sides to speak up, unequivocally condemn this, and work together with their communities in coordination in order to bring that back.
Oh, and
I should also just say, I mean, obviously, Martin, you're entitled to your theory, your opinion. There are a lot of people who question whether this was intentional. There is an organization called Hamas that had its own interests in terms of the Palestinian elections, in terms of Palestinian public opinion. There are activists who have their own interests in Sheikh Jarrah. There is the month of Ramadan. There are a lot of other things that are not connected to the politics, the internal politics of the state of Israel. And also, I want to be clear to our viewers, my opinions about the performance of the Israel police has nothing to do with a particular government or not a particular government. I don't have a political opinion that I will share on air about which government should be in power, but I will absolutely say that the police force of my country should stop people from being lynched in the streets. And if a reporter from our channel can go there and walk with that group, why is there not a police officer who is with that group and who is making arrests if these people are breaking the law and obviously breaking the law on social media in view of the entire world? What a shameful night for this country.
Well, just if I can zoom out a little bit, I think it's important to get a wider picture. And I think what you said about Hamas and its interests is absolutely true. And what we're having, it doesn't negate what I'm saying too. I think what we're seeing is a sort of a strange perfect storm between Hamas's interests, Israeli Arab interests, Netanyahu's interests, and Lapid's interests, this perfect storm that came into a massive confrontation, got totally out of control. So I think what you said about Hamas is valid, but I think the other points are valid. And to get out of this mess, it's going to involve two things. It will involve Israel reestablishing its deterrence against Hamas and the world forcing down a ceasefire at some stage. And internally, it's going to involve all the major leaders from all the various parties to act like grown-ups and to think of wider interests and get their various communities to calm down.
We're hearing Yair Lapid now condemning the Jewish writers as well. Samir, do you want to add to this conversation? I see that you've been sitting here listening.
Again, I say we should go to the roots. And I think for us to coexist as a whole, 14 million people who are living in this country, we need to have to do two recognitions, and not attaching any political conditions to these recognitions. It should come from our own interest. First of all, we both historically are connected to this land equally. There is no one side that is more importantly linked to this land. And thus, if there is a right or a link to this land, for one side, it does not give him the right to drive the other out. This is a very important basic recognition that should come from everybody. We should teach our children about this basic recognition. The second one, the Palestinians, the Arab, should recognize with open hearts, with sincere hearts, the Holocaust, and we should respect its memory, and we should understand its consequences. And then the Israeli society, the Jews, should recognize the Nakba, should recognize that there was dispossession for the Palestinians, and it's creating the whole thing. You know, these families in Sheikh Jarrah, they have been living here in Jaffa and Haifa, and they were dispossessed, or they left in 48 and lived as refugees there in Sheikh Jarrah, and the Jordanian government gave them rights in these lands in exchange of giving up their refugee status. But then suddenly comes a group, a Jewish settlement group, settlers that claim a link or ownership of this property from 200 years. But these people have left their properties in Jaffa and Haifa 70 years ago only, and they cannot claim it back. This injustice, this kind of imbalance in relation will keep these scenes continuing and coming wave and after wave.
I just have to ask, how common are these beliefs, the belief that Israelis, the Jewish people, have a right to state, the belief that the Holocaust is something that actually occurred within the Palestinian community?
Most of the young Palestinian generation, I can speak on their behalf. This is what they believe. They believe Jews, they have link to this land, but we also have link to this land. The Jews have been here, but we also have been there. They have never been alone. We always existed together with them. And this kind of basic beliefs will help us a lot come and think, instead of seeing each other as a problem to each other, we can be the solution to each other.
Well, Summer, we're basically saying the same thing. I'm just saying in a more pragmatic way that the leadership on all sides have to become adults extremely fast and have to show maturity and have to lead and calm their communities down.
Well, the question now is whether or not we can go back to what the situation was before this civil unrest that we're seeing in this country.
I don't think this is gone.
I mean, especially after, those visuals of this lynching.
Can we have mixed cities anymore? I hope so.
Yes, I think we can.
I like mixed cities. I like walking down the street of Jaffa.
We don't have massive bloodshed.
I like working in a channel where Jews and Arabs work together.
Oh, I don't think it's going to disappear.
I don't know, Simon. What do you think about this?
Well, I am optimistic. I think there is no other solution. We need to coexist, but we need to start believing into these two recognitions. This is the basis. And again, the ball is in the Israeli court. The Israelis should decide in what direction they should go. Should they go to separation, two states, or should they go to one state? But this place cannot be a dominated Jewish state with 7 million Palestinians inside. It cannot happen. There should be some directions to the Israelis.
Let's get some calm first before we solve that impossible problem.
Yeah, well, I'd like to go back to what's happening with the rocket barrages that we're seeing, because obviously we've seen more than 1,300, I think, rockets at this point launched into Israel from the Gaza Strip. Does the Arab-Israeli community, do Palestinians across the board feel that that is a right solution in getting their demands heard?
Well, I think Hamas is trying to ride the wave. Hamas is trying to attract the attention of everybody. They are doing these attacks tactical, but again,
this is one of the first times that they've really managed to make that connection with what's happening in Jerusalem and the civil unrest in this country.
I would blame those who are allowing the money to go inside Gaza each month. The 30 million USD that goes in cash to Gaza is helping them to keep the infrastructure and continue.
That's going to be coming under serious.
So again, why does Israel allow this? Why does Israel allow Hamas? Because Israel tactically wants to divide Gaza, to divide the Palestinians, and they think they are playing the right card with Hamas, but this magic will turn against the magician, and it has happened. Hamas in the 80s got support from the government of Rabin. He gave them a wide...
well, we're not hearing anything from Mahmoud Abbas.
Well, that's what I was wanting to say. Summer,
he's not related.
Summer, you're forgetting something pretty obvious here. There was supposed to be a Palestinian election, and it did not happen. And that in itself creates a huge powder keg. Of course, Hamas probably would have won the election, and that's one of the reasons it wouldn't have had...
Hamas would have never won this election. Hamas would have been the biggest list with 40-45.
Let's just leave that... Yes, but let's leave it outside for a second. The fact that the election was stopped is a big mistake.
Most of the Palestinians are disappointed. They are angry from cancelling the elections. And I think cancelling the elections made Abbas, again, more irrelevant to the Palestinians.
But what do the Palestinians think about the rocket fire that we're seeing launched at Israel? Is Hamas gaining more support, garnering more support from Palestinians in the West Bank?
Hamas has lost a lot of its support in Gaza because by the end of the day, what people need to see is a better life. Okay, maybe some people will react emotionally towards seeing some rockets going to the side who's putting siege on them. but people, what they are interested to see is a better life, improvement in life, jobs, freedom, traveling, and Hamas has failed to manage Gaza Strip in the last 14 years in a proper way. Its popularity has dropped. If this election would have happened, Hamas would have a free fall coming from 74 members in the Legislative Council to 45 members only. It could have been the biggest list. But the three lists of Fatah together would have been the majority.
Then why did the elections happen?
Because it goes against the interest of Abbas himself.
Well,
because this election will change him personally. It will not change Fatah. It will change his leadership. And he does not want to go. He wants to wait until
All right, my friends, we are out for a quick break. When we get back, we are going to dive into what is happening in the Gaza Strip, the ongoing rocket fire that we are seeing being launched into Israeli territory.